added effects. I hereby call this General Purpose and Administration Committee meeting held Monday, January 15, 2018, 1:30 p.m. to order. I'd like to ask everyone to please rise for a moment of silence. Councillor Drew, did you have details of Councillor Don Frew?
Sorry, I just wanted to recognize the passing of former Councillor Don Frew. I believe the funeral was last week. So he was a councillor for a number of years, about 30 years ago.
So I'd like to recognize the former councillor's passing. I did see the notices in the paper. So the next item, I'd like to recognize local Blackstock resident, welcome aboard Nick Dawkins, who's here in the audience. There is our new senior building inspector, plans examiner for a 2-year contract, helping us prepare for our growth. So welcome aboard, Nick. Thank you. Next up is disclosure of pecuniary interest and nature thereof. Seeing none, move on to announcements from council and then staff. Councillor Kett.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to note the passing of past Mayor Marcel Brunel in Whitby, 25 years on council.
And any other announcements from council? Just we had the Mayor's Honor Roll yesterday in the New Year's Levy skate, and was well attended by many residents, and we had the Honor Roll inducting 7 members for 2017. Excellent, worthwhile inductees into it, and it was a great event, and I want to thank the staff, Lisa Fitton and Lindsay Burnett, in their involvement and preparation of that, and all the councillors that helped participate in the event. It's great recognizing those individuals in the community, and I received feedback from many of the recipients yesterday after the event, and they were all very appreciative, and so thanks again. Any other announcements from council? Councillor Watton.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a couple of things. First off, the Blackstock Fair Board's annual general meeting is this Thursday at 6:30 for anyone who would be interested in attending. And also just like to remind people or mention that the Celebration of Life for Bill Lishman will be held on Saturday the 20th at the Robert McLaughlin Art Gallery from 1 till 4, I believe. So another fine gentleman that has left us.
And Paula Lishman, who was an award recipient at the Honor Roll yesterday, she was happy. She wants that message to get out on where the Celebration of Life for Bill Lishman is, and to remind her it is welcome and open to everybody who is interested in attending. So, any other announcements from council? Announcements from staff? Ms. Coleman?
Thank you. I just want to let people know that there will be a public meeting on Wednesday night for the Parks, Recreation and Culture Master Plan, and it'll present a summary of what information we have received to date, and it's an opportunity to provide additional information before the report is drafted for council review. And it's at 7 o'clock till 9 o'clock Wednesday night at the Scugog Community Recreation Center.
Dr. Valentin?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to let the public know and council that the open house for the operating budget has been moved to Wednesday, February 21st at the library at 6:30.
and that the final budget will be presented to council on Monday, March 5th.
Any other announcements from our staff? Yes, Councillor Kett?
I have a question for Director Coleman. Will there be time for residents to make comments on that?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. The time for it, they can come to the meeting on Wednesday night and see what information is presented there and make comments at that time, or there'll be a 2 to 3 week period afterwards if they have further comments they could send.
Okay, so will we give them that time period on Wednesday night to say that they'll have 21 days to respond?
I will have them add that to the meeting, yes.
Well, that'd be great. Thank you.
And Director Coleman, just to assist with the paper, if they are able to get it out, I don't know if they've missed the deadlines or not. Papers will be already out by the time this happens, so if it's on their website or anything, the Parks and Rec Master Plan is encompassing a great deal of input for the future of our recreational facilities and park facilities for the entire township. So I just didn't know if you had the main areas you wanted to just highlight. It's not just the, say, arena. It touches on many of the things. Okay. So if there's any follow-up questions or anything from the media, if you're able to put anything out there just to highlight, with nothing worse than having a public meeting and very few people show up. So if there's any means that you can get it out there or assist us in getting out there above and beyond what you've already done, or in addition to our municipal social media, that would be fantastic. And Laurie Bowers can help, and Director Coleman can help provide some of the details. So any other final input from staff? Okay, I did want to mention that Councillor Guido had sent her regrets for today's meeting. Something had come up in short notice, so she was unable to attend. We'll move on to the next item on the agenda, is our presentations and delegations. We do not have any. So the next up is our consent agenda. So I have consent agenda number 9. Some previous polls are item 9.2.1, the Scugog Healthy. First of all, I have it moved by Councillor Kett and Councillor Watton that the items listed under Section 9 consent agenda be approved, save and accept the items. And the items listed are, so far, Scugog Health and Safety Policy, pulled by Councillor Somerville. Site alteration bylaw update, pulled by Councillor Back. Site alteration agreement for Lalu Peninsula Inc., pulled by Councillor Back. Are there any other items from the consent agenda that wish to be pulled? Councillor Kett?
GPA minutes from December 4th.
9.1. All right, any other items? Councillor Back?
Yes. I'm not sure if it's 9.2.4 or 9.2.5. Give me 1 sec.
Was it to do with the table, or was it to do...
It's to... Oh my God, where is it? Yes, it's to do with the one graph with the tax.
Okay.
Which one is
the
that?
The adjustments is 9.2.4, where there was...
2.4, thank you.
Okay. 9.2.4, any other items? Yes, everything all the way up to 9.2.4 inclusive, so it's 9.2.5 and 9.2.6 are the only ones not pulled. All right, seeing no further pulls, does anybody need it relisted? Okay, all those in favor? Consent is carried. Next item, our first pull is adoption of GPA in minutes, pulled by Councillor Kett. Item 9.1.1, Councillor Kett. Sorry, I need a seconder now. We're in JP&A, and the new rules are we need a seconder for that. Councillor Back. Okay.
On page 7.
page 7 of the agenda or page 7 of the GPA minutes?
Page 7 of the page 7 on our,
Okay.
agenda.
What item?
On the bottom item that, 231. Down in, the changes were put into these. Sorry, are we not supposed to reflect exactly what we have in the, in the meeting? I know it was changed in the council meeting, but is this not supposed to reflect what's actually happened in this GPA meeting?
I'll ask Mr. Clerk to respond to the question and seek clarity if you know what the question is.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to council. I'm not quite sure of the question. However, with regards to that recommendation, that was the recommendation passed by GPA, so I'm not sure of the question.
The question is, Councillor Back definitely made a motion that was approved by council in the GPA that stated that she wanted to have all councillors and senior staff to have their expenses audited. Later on, the mayor came in with a change of the motion, but I'm just saying, I don't want to debate what we're talking about here. I'm just saying, aren't we supposed to reflect what was done in this meeting? Whether it was changed or not, we should still have what actually happened in that meeting, should we not?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to council, that is what happened during the meeting. So what is reflected in the minutes is what happened during the meeting.
Okay.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you.
All right. Any other questions on the minutes? Seeing none, all those in favor? Carried. Next item is the 9.2.1 pulled by Councillor Somerville. I need a mover. Sorry, we have moved by Councillor Kett, seconded by Councillor Drew, pulled by Councillor Somerville. Councillor Somerville.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a question, and on page 18, it says smoking is not permitted inside the building, outside designated smoking areas only. We do not have designated smoking areas only, and as you walk through the door, it says smoking is only allowed within 9 meters of the open doors. I think outside designated smoking areas only needs not be in there. I think it needs to have within 9 meters, or it needs, there's a new policy coming through, I think, that it has to be even further than that for buildings now. So I think that needs to be brought up to date. Can somebody clarify that?
And just to clarify, because I just wanted to clarify the question, maybe there could be language in there that refers to the laws. Is that what you're referring to, that there's not always a designated area?
Yeah, here in this building, or in this municipal park area, there is not a designated smoking area. Most areas do have a designated smoking area, but this is all being changed now with the new law, that they're not allowed to smoke in designated smoking areas. Even the hospitals are taking away a lot of the designated areas. And I think 9 meters is right at the present time is the allowed meters, but I think that's changing as well. So I just need that clarified. And if it isn't important, then okay, but it's, I think we don't need outside designated smoking areas only.
Okay. Ms. Fitton, did you have any comment on that?
That would be great.
Okay.
I'd appreciate that, thank you.
So maybe if we just needed to come through the mic too, so we can't hear.
I heard her.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor, we can research that and we'll get back to you.
Thank you.
Councillor Drew?
Thank you. I also had a question on this, and it's also on page 18, and I did give a heads up to Lisa Fitton and to our Director of, what do you call it, Community Services. On page 18, safety boots, steel and toe supplied by the employee. I understand that the employees go out and get their safety boots, but are they not reimbursed? Full-time permanent employees?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, the councillor, it depends. Full-time employees that require steel-toe boots are reimbursed for them, up to a maximum dollar amount. But part-time employees or seasonals and students are not reimbursed, so it depends on what position they have.
I think that should be defined in here, because our staff, when they look at that, they probably could have a fit when it says supplied by employee, when our practice is that we do reimburse for full-time permanent employees.
Okay, we can look at that as well.
So if we could just clarify that, that would be great. Thank you.
And did I have anybody else who wanted to speak to that? So the item is moved, and we would, the amendments are minor in nature, and because of the GPA, we'd pass this as it is, and then by the time it comes back to council, we just have those minor corrections and highlighted. So, all right, any other questions? Councillor Cat?
Will we have those changes in contrasting colors so that we'll know what they are when they come back?
Or highlighted.
Or,
right, it'll be clearly highlighted. Sure.
Perfect, thank you.
All right, any other questions? None. All those in favor? Carried. Next item that was pulled was Comms 2018 9.2.2, moved by Councillor Back, second by Councillor Watton. Councillor Back?
Come on up, Lori, because I'll be asking questions on the next one. This one, I just wanted to thank you for your assistance with this and adding the updated changes to the site alteration bylaw. It's very much appreciated.
Any other questions for this? Questions? Okay. All right. All those in favor? Carried. Next item up is the site alteration, 9.2.3 site alteration agreement, pulled by Councillor Back, moved by Councillor Pack, and seconded by Councillor Drew. Councillor Back.
Thank you. Through the mayor. So my first question regarding the soil tester to be retained by the township, will that be done prior to the beginning of any soil coming to the property? Through you, Mr. Mayor, and to Councillor Back. Yes, we've actually begun gathering up some proposals for soil testing for this project already, and that will be completed by the time the agreement is in place. Okay. And then who will the test results be reported to? Through you, Mr. Mayor, Councillor Back, the test results will come into the municipality, into the Community Services Department, likely to myself and possibly also the director for review. And what is the time frame on that? If they go out and test, how does it take a matter of days, or does it take a matter of weeks for that particular test to be reported, the results? Through you, Mr. Mayor, the testing, the quotes that we've received so far have a few day to 1 week turnaround time. If you need emergency testing, that is available, but of course the cost does go up a little bit with that. Thank you. And so my understanding during the winter months with these soil importation, it's going to be basically stockpiled initially in one sort of area, so it won't be spread or hard to locate if there's an issue. Through you, Mr. Mayor, that's correct. That would the material will be stockpiled in 1 or 2 locations in accordance with approved plans that they have for that. So we will know where the tested material is. Okay, and with regards to hours of operation of the trucks, I know sometimes it's difficult it's like herding cats with regards to those trucks coming, but a huge concern with the residents were school pickup with the bus and school drop-off, and especially during the winter months because there are no sidewalks. It's a narrower road because of the snowbanks, and the school buses drop off children with quite a distance for them to walk on Castle Harbor there. So has there been any movement with regards to hours of operation or perhaps a pause? I think the bus comes at about between 8:30 and 8:45 in the morning, and I believe it comes 3:45 or so, 3:50 in the afternoon. Is there any way that we can have a pause so those children can walk home safely? Through you, Mr. Mayor, that would be part of this agreement. We'll be talking about hours of operation. Of course, stopping and starting is something that, sort of costs everybody money, including the site people, but we will do our best to get those things looked after. At the minimum, they do have to have an approved traffic plan, which would likely include the use of flag people, especially during busier times, and we will endeavor to make sure that that is in place. But part of the agreement will be speaking specifically to the times of day that they'll be operating. Okay, because I know for a fact there's probably about 10 children that get on and off the bus on that particular stretch from Simcoe on Castle Harbor up to the Bend. I've seen them all. Sorry, Mr. Mayor, I also want to note we are in conversation with the student transportation people and trying to work out some alternatives for the children that live in that stretch. Ideally, if they could get dropped off right in front of their house, that would be perfect. And lastly, I really want to thank you for your work with this and, having the extra meeting with the residents just to calm some of the concerns and to make sure the new owner is aware of those concerns and respects those concerns. None of us want to see a second Green Bank, and I really appreciate yourself and also the representatives from Laulu for entering this agreement. It was not necessary, but we council and residents really appreciate you going that extra mile because nobody wants to see contamination on our lands. So I really appreciate it.
Any other questions on the report? Councillor Kett.
Thank you, Mayor. Through you. A few questions. One is we have to get approval from the region as well for that traffic control.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, Councillor Kett. Yes, this application would be circulated to the region as well as Conservation Authority. Okay, and so you mentioned some preliminary works being done. Is that like a source site QP? Are they already working on that, a source site? Is that what you meant by we're working on some? Through you, Mr. Mayor, where in the report is that? I apologize. No, I thought you just said it a second ago. You said that we've been working on a few items, and I'm just wondering if it's source sites that you've been working on. Through you, Mr. Mayor, no. Source site, my understanding has not been selected yet. Those things happen quickly, and typically in a short distance of time between when the source site is taken and the site is available to receive the material. So that hasn't been decided yet. Okay, and the QP for the source sites, would we use that to try and save some money? The same person for the receiving site? Through you, Mr. Mayor, what typically happens is the source site provides us with testing by a reputable firm. So that will come to us. That will have been paid in advance by likely the developer. And then when we're at the stage of when it starts coming into the site, that's when our qualified person will then begin to test that material. Okay, so you know what my last one is. How much will that cost us, and are we being reimbursed for that? Through you, Mr. Mayor, the entire cost of the site alteration permit process, as well as the testing, that will be at the expense of the developer. Okay, and has this gone through conservation yet, or I should know, shouldn't I? But Through you, Mr. Mayor, Conservation have been, they have their own permit process, of course, so we are working with the Conservation Authority, have a meeting coming up with them to discuss this site specifically.
Okay, that's great, thank you.
Any other questions on this? Again, I want to echo and thank your effort and the developers' cooperation, because we want to make sure that the quality of the soil and the safety of the residents in the process of that during this development is at the highest standard. So thank you, and thanks to the developers and all the staff involved with it. Any other questions? Seeing none? All those in favor? Carried. Next item we have up is the property tax adjustments, pulled by Councillor Back, moved by Councillor Kett, seconded by Councillor Drew. Councillor Back, hold the item.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So, on page 47, attachment 1, with regards to 17.06 and 17.07, the properties 179 Mary, so for $6,912.77 and $5,450.09, is that the municipal portion, or is that the total? Because I believe when we did that deal with the parking lot to rent, it was not this much. It was a much smaller amount.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, yes, it is a full amount, municipal and regional.
I just bring your attention on the bottom of the chart. It says the township share there. That was one of the items I was looking for too, the same question.
Right, so then my question is the total amount,
it says $2,254.99.
What? I'm sorry, the 34,666 is in the conclusion of the council approved write-off. So what actually is the municipal portion? Should it not be the municipal portion that we're approving?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, we have to approve the full amount because we do collect all taxes. And on the back page under financial implications, it does show the township portion being $8,319.39.
Okay, and then does this go to regional, that they have to then approve that? Or do we just say no and then they don't get it?
If we say no, you don't get it, then I guess we'd have to go back to the region.
But if we're writing it off, the total amount, that includes the regional, I just want to make sure that we're not then cutting a check to the region for taxes that we didn't receive.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, no, we wouldn't be doing that. So this is a write-off that we advise the region. So if we've collected them and we have to return them, we would return the region's portion as well.
Okay.
And the region would reimburse us for that.
Okay. It was just, it was confusing for me when I saw the larger amount and then the smaller amount, and thinking, well, because I know when we did that agreement, it was not $11,000 for that property.
Mm-hmm.
And on page 47, it has the two columns there, the total, the 34,666.59, and then the 8,300 is the township share, but the column to the left of that says 12,362 is the total write-off for those parking lots, and then $2,254.99 is our share. So
I understand that, but in the actual body of the report, it's the larger amount that we're voting on.
Right, and just so you know, at the region, this was brought up as an item being looked into further with the province, because right now it's eligible, the region has no choice. If it meets all the criteria and it's municipal use and it falls within that, then it's under the Act, so. All right. Any other questions on this? Councillor Kett?
Just regarding the same thing, thank you, Mayor. So, I guess I'm confused with the fact that if we're looking at a total of, let's say, our share is $2,254, whatever our share is, are we collecting, or are we not reimbursing the region, or are we on the hook, and if the region doesn't accept it, it's out of our budget?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So the township collects all the taxes and then sends checks down to the region and the school board. So this is money that when the applications come through and they're approved by MPAC, that we do have to reimburse them their write-offs, then we would go back and claim back from the region.
But we would claim it, or we would hopefully claim it?
No, we do.
Okay, but we get it back?
Yes.
That's all, okay.
Yes.
That's good. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? None? All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. We are now at the items 10 of the agenda. Sorry, we are item 11, we've just dealt with 10. And the first one, we have notice of motion that was received. So, just so everybody is clear on the procedural, following the proper procedure, we need a 2/3 majority. And I'm talking first with 11.1, which is Councillor Back. And the first motion that we have to deal with is the reconsideration of a matter previously dealt with, so it'll require 2/3 majority. And then we deal with the notice of motion on it. So is all councillors clear on that? 2/3 majority in order to deal with it. All right, so we need a seconder for the motion to reconsider. So we have Councillor Back, Councillor Kett. So all those in favor? Carried. So now we deal with the motion. Councillor Back gave notice of motion for it, and it's already been seconded by Councillor Kett. Councillor Back, would you like to speak to it?
Thank you, through the mayor. Yes, I would like to speak to this. Just regarding, I feel that this tightens up our code of conduct and I think it actually protects each councillor a little better. You know, with reference to the oath of office, I don't know any of us that could dictate it right now by heart. So if we're to be you know, held to that particular oath, it's nice to have it in here. And with regards to, you know, the actual definitions of bullying, harassment, intimidation, and whatnot, I think those are good to have, you know, because there's these definitions in here, I wish we had, you know, this time last year. So it's just tightening it up and protecting us a little bit better, and just knowing exactly spelt out what our code of conduct is. So I just think it helps. And actually, I would like to ask the clerk his opinion of the additions of these, if he has any issues with adding these, or if he's comfortable with them.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through to Council. I support what you've put forward there, Councillor Back. I agree that definitions provide better clarifications within a code of conduct, so I certainly have no issues with adding definitions and certainly support this motion.
Any other questions from Council? Councillor Watton?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First off, with respect to the declaration of office, I'm just would like clarity if that is as outlined by the Municipal Act, or if that wording is exactly the same, and it's just being inserted into our code of conduct. Is that the purpose of that?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through to Council. The Municipal Act states that a declaration of office must be sworn and signed by each councillor. It doesn't give the exact wording. The wording that you see before you is the wording from the declaration of office that Township of Scugog uses for all their council members. So this was taken directly from the council declaration of office used in 2014, and that wording comes from that form template comes from the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing.
Yeah, that's okay. Thank you. That's what I did mean. And secondly, on the given that you have, you know, all the definitions, Councillor Bax put them in, do they echo the Ontario Human Rights Code definitions, or are these greater than that, or just adding more wording to the Ontario Human Rights Code and the workplace safety and that code? Just curious, more than anything.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to the Councillor, it's somewhat of a hybrid, because you'll see within the harassment harassment definition. It speaks to the grounds identified with the Ontario Human Rights Code. So it's a hybrid in that it does also outline those items that are within the Human Rights Code, as well as any other items that could be seen as harassment. So it's somewhat of a hybrid that it includes those grounds as well.
So they are outlined in the Ontario Human Rights Code, or they are not, as outlined in here? Or is it just defined harassment I know when I read the Ontario Human Rights Code, it was a simple explanation. And this is, to me, not a simple explanation. Not that I disagree with it, I'm just trying to know which one it is. If we look at the Ontario Human Rights Code, can we find all this stuff in it?
Through Mr. Mayor and Council to Council, it's not specific to the Ontario Human Rights Codes. It's not directly taken from there. These definitions were taken from a variety of sources, but are also within our human rights our human resources policies that we use at the Township of Scugog. So that's where some of these definitions came from, and obviously, as you can see, they reference the Human Rights Code as well on top of that.
So if they are taken from somewhere else, should that be referenced, I guess is what I'm getting at. Where it came from.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you to Council. I believe the intention of Councillor Back's motion is to have the exact definition within the code and not to reference it somewhere else, similar to the Declaration of Office was referenced, but it's being word for word described in the Code of Conduct. So I believe that's the intent, and I don't want to speak for Councillor Back, but I believe that's the intent.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions on it? All those in favor? Carried. Next item is Councillor Kett's notice of motion. Same process. We need we have moved by Councillor Kett, seconded by Councillor Somerville, sorry, it's on the previous page here. We need to reconsider a matter requires the two-thirds majority vote. Same thing, we need 4 council members in support of reconsidering it. So you have the notice of motion on your agenda before you. All those in favor of the reconsideration? Carried. Councillor, were you asking a question?
I guess it doesn't.
No, it doesn't
No,
matter.
I just wanted to, I believe that I was able to speak to it before the vote, but that's fine.
Two-thirds majority. So, and next item, though, is now we need a seconder before speaking of it. Councillor Kett and Councillor Somerville, were you initialing this one too, or just the one? Okay. All right. This is the, you would like to speak to this motion that you put forward, Councillor Kett?
Yes, I just feel that there's a number of committees that we're on and voting right now, and after careful study of a number of the municipalities in the Durham region, everybody votes on all committees. So I just thought that we should be voting. It could be detrimental to a number of the committees that we're on. So, and that's what the way I feel.
Okay. Well, just before I go to the rest of the council, I just wanted to give the opportunity to the clerk to speak to it, because I have some items I just wanted to address too, but I think I want to give the opportunity to the clerk first.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you to Council. In reference to all other townships within Durham Region voting rights, I know that the City of Pickering, and again, that's some experience that I've had working with the City of Pickering, do not have voting rights. But what you will find with those townships and cities and municipalities that do have voting rights, they only have one appointed council liaison to each of those committees, and I think that's a great difference in that yes, you could have, I'm not against councillors having voting rights, but I think the difference is that when you have up to 3 councillors voting on a single advisory committee, you lose that citizen input. So I think the difference there is that initially within my report reviewing the advisory committees, it was to remove the voting rights and to reduce the council liaison position to 1 council liaison per advisory committee. Council chose to leave the composition as is but remove voting rights, which I think was a very good compromise. Whether there just be whether there still be 3 members but don't vote, or 1 member in vote, I think is the appropriate balance there. So I support the original motion, provided by council for that very reason. So, although yes, you'll see other council members of other municipalities voting, you won't see them having 3 members on each advisory committee. However, if council decides to change this and then provide voting rights, we'll have to change all the bylaws again. Back to the way they were. Some of the advertisements that we did with regards to committee compositions after council removed the committee composition and council members being a part of quorum, we upped some of the council citizen appointments on the advertisements that we did, so we'll have to change those as well, in that we increase some of the citizen appointments to make up for the voting members on those committees. So we'll have to change all that as well if this motion is passed. But I appreciate the opportunity to speak there, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Councillor Kett, and then I'll go to the rest of the council.
Thank you. Yeah, I just noticed that, especially with Ajax, it does definitely state that there's 2 council members on the Heritage, and they both have voting rights. And it's my belief and feeling that the councillors are representing the citizens in a mass rather than just one opinion of one person. So I don't feel that it's a problem. And in Pickering, I did notice that there was 1 committee, but I didn't check all the committees that they did vote. So that's just my point, is I feel that if the next council wants to change it, then so be it. But right now, I feel that the council members should stay status quo.
I just would add to the clerk's comments on it, is that just reminding council that these are citizen committees and they're providing citizen input to the council, and we have our opportunity to debate and vote on the issues or items that are recommended to us from the committees. And if we have 2 and 3 councillors on those advisory committees and they've already voted on it, and then it comes to here, it's just it seems to be taking away, in my opinion, from the citizen input, and it's being diluted or weighted down with the councillor input, and we're going to have our opportunities to deal with that. And that's my point of view on this. And I don't want to take away from the importance of having councillors liaison from those committees, but I think this was a good compromise, happy medium to say, okay, we still have that many councillors on there, but if they don't have the voting rights, then we can't be viewed at from the public as saying, well, if there was a low turnout for that committee and half were councillors and they voted on something, then it couldn't be misinterpreted that it was an extension of council, which even though we're meeting the laws of the Municipal Act and not having a quorum there, it's just, to me, it was safer to go with the non-voting route. But I also agree with the clerk, if there was only 1 representative, then no, I would agree with having the voting rights. So, Councillor Back, I'll come back around.
Thank you. Through the mayor. My only concern is, last week with the seniors, I guess it's the Skagog Age-Friendly Committee, we had a missing member, and now he has resigned. 1 member was away and will be away for 3 months. So we only had 2 other members and myself, which absolutely did not meet quorum. We needed 3, and because I couldn't vote, it was basically a wasted meeting. We have a seniors information fair we're trying to plan, and if this continues into April, we're going to have a hard time getting decisions made and things done for this particular information fair. And secondly, heritage, especially heritage, if the subcommittee, so to speak, gets called in for anything with regards to business, new businesses in the Heritage District, a lot of times Councillor Kett and myself are the ones that make quorum. So if we can't vote at that particular one, then it will be delayed until we can pull a quorum, and a lot of those members also go away here and there at different times of the year, so that could delay a business owner getting certain renovations or whatnot approved. So I don't know if there's a hybrid solution that we can have. You know, I'm on the Scugog Age Friendly, and there's only one council member on that. The Heritage is 2. I don't know if anybody would be open to that, where there's 1 or 2 councillors on those committees, and with discussions with staff, if they know that there's a hard time getting quorum, that those particular councillors can vote on those specific committees, but where there is, you know, 3, just say on waterfront, maybe there's just 1 designated, or it's not, if there's enough people. I don't know if anybody would be open to a hybrid, but I mean, we're not going to get anything done on some of the committees.
Okay. Director Newman?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and just to address the comments regarding Scugog Age Friendly Advisory Committee, we have heard certainly the issues with the numbers there. So just looking at our website, we have actually advised for 7 committee members on that committee, so obviously we're hoping to fill 7 positions, and hopefully that will not be an issue for moving forward. And that, I believe that closes this Friday, so there may, yeah, I'm not sure of the number of applications we received so far, but we have advertised for 7. So just with regards to that, if we could get 7 members, hopefully that doesn't become an issue, but it's all about the applications we receive. But just to address that piece of it anyway. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Drew?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I agree with your comments, Mr. Mayor, and that of the clerk. I just would ask the clerk if off the top of his head he can advise us how many times this particular issue has, and this particular bylaw and reports have come forward to this council.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you to council.
Sorry, I should have given you a heads up on that question.
That's okay. You were testing my memory because I was last year now. I believe this the 4th or 5th time this has come forward.
Yeah, okay, that's my point. We have been talking about this for quite some time, so I'm a little surprised that, you know, after the fact, you know, the bylaw's been passed and so on and so forth, and now we're coming back and want to revisit it. I think that we have hashed this out thoroughly. They are advisory committees. We do want to hear, and we'd want to have the input and the votes from the public. And we do have an opportunity when it comes to council for our vote then. So I will not support this. Thank you.
Councillor Watt, did you have your hand up?
I didn't, but I got a lot.
I'll come back to you.
No, my only comment would be that if we could have a compromise that 1 council member of however many are part of the meeting would be a voting member. I agree that if there are 3 of us and there are 2 other members from the citizens, that a vote by 3 of us is probably not really a good thing. So if there has to be a compromise, I would like to suggest that we have 1 member of council, if there are more than 1 on a committee, be a voting member.
Councillor Somerville?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say too. There's only 1 committee that I'm on that has 3 council members, and I think that we actually hold a quorum, and if there wasn't us on that, we wouldn't have a quorum. I think, and I don't mind being on that, but I agree. I think that maybe one should be a voting member, not all three. Oftentimes, I'm at one board member, or one board meeting, where I'm the only one there anyways that's from council, so I just get to vote, period. And I think there's probably other times when other councillors are at council, or at advisory committee meetings, where they are the only council member there too. So I think that this could be compromised. I think we could probably go into a better direction. And yes, I won't go to meetings if I can't, there's no point in going if you can't say something and you can't have something to say about the meetings. And so I would prefer it just to go right straight down to just one voting council member on each committee.
Just to clarify, just because you don't have the voting rights doesn't mean you can't comment on the stuff and be part of that and liaison from the committee back to us. It was just to have a weighted influence on the outcome of the vote. That was the intent behind it being on voting. But to get some clarification from suggestions from yourself and from Councillor Watton, I'd like the clerk just to comment on what is involved with doing something like that. And I'm thinking of logistics and having it would one designated vote. I'll leave you for the comment. And
thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you to Council. I agree with the principle of having one voting member, but if there's three voting members, there has to be a decision on who becomes that voting member. I just see an issue with three members being there and they disagree on which way to vote. I don't know how to rectify that situation if that is the case. So I've already stated that I certainly agree with there being one voting member, so I certainly agree with that part of the discussion, but having one voting member when there's three appointed to the committee, council would have to decide who the voting member was. Otherwise, I think you'll just come across issues with two, or three voting members, council members, just disagreeing on which way to vote, and there'll have to be a determination of who gets the final say, I think, in any case. So you could have one voting, and again, I'm just thinking off the top of my head, one appointed a voting member and designate who that voting member is, and then still have two. I don't agree with that, but that is a hybrid situation.
Yeah, go ahead, Miss. Councillor Watton? Councillor Watton?
Sorry. My suggestion would be that would be a decision of the chair at each meeting, and it could just be...
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you to council. I wouldn't want to put the chair in that position, to be perfectly honest, to have to choose between two council members, that they have to decide who's going to vote this time, who's going to vote that time. Again, I like the idea of it, I just don't like putting that citizen member in that position. I just don't think it'd be fair on that person. I know it'd be difficult for anybody.
And I understand the point that, Councillor Back has made. If there's two people there and the council members there's a third, to not have quorum for the meeting not to happen. We wouldn't want that my suggestion is that we try and get more members on that committee and make sure that they're there and reach out. Maybe we need to reach out with other methods to get more involvement. And Councillor Caddy said to come back to you.
I had a response to your comments, Mayor. A number of the committees that I'm on right now are basically just advocates for that situation, and the councillors happen to be the liaison with the rest of the community. I can name the Heritage Committee, where everybody owns a building on Main Street, or Queen Street, in the main central district, and Councillor Back and I are on there for the views of the rest of the community that will be paying for that. On the Environmental Committee, and everyone there is an advocate for their own situation, and the three councillors that are there, who is rarely more than two, but are the view of the rest of the township, or else we'd be having no plastic bag day and throughout our committee. So we happen to represent the rest of the community. And the EDAC is all with business people and not necessarily the rest of the community. So we, as councillors, the elected officials, are the voice of the community to be there. And to take our vote away from us is taking the voice away from the community. So that's my point. And if it could be made that no more than 2 councillors voted during a committee, then that would be great.
Just to clarify, and I just want to make sure that I'm reiterating it, when we have a public meeting here and we have citizens speak at the podium, they don't get to vote on the matter, they get to provide comment to help us decide. So to me, that's the way I view these citizen committees, is that they are providing comment and advice to us to make the decision to vote. So you're not taking, just because your vote isn't there doesn't mean your voice isn't there, because you still have a spot at the table, you still get to discuss, and that is the exact point you're saying, is if a committee is getting off track with, say, not understanding the township requirements, etc., then that's the role of the councillor there, as well as the liaison back here. So when the minutes come and there's further explanation needed, then that councillor provides that. That's my point of view on this, is that it's not for the direction to come with the council. You're saying you're representing the citizens, well, those citizens on there to represent it. You're representing when you're sitting here.
I understand your point, but I disagree, because
you're entitled to
I realize that,
yeah.
And that's why I'm saying it. To me, it doesn't make sense not to have voting members, and it doesn't make sense that the other municipalities in Durham Region all vote. I just, like I said, I sent around one from Ajax for the Heritage, that they have both council members that vote. And that's exactly like, I don't understand why all of a sudden now it's important in Scugog, but it's not important in other communities.
Well, I think you said you referenced Ajax you looked into only, and then the clerk had already given an example where they don't vote, so we don't have that in front of us, but we just...
Well, we do have the Ajax one, because I sent it out to everybody. I didn't reference Pickering, but I did reference Uxbridge and Brock.
All right,
So,
you made your point, Councillor Ted.
Okay,
So
thank you.
Any other councillors want to speak to it for a second time? All right, so we'll just call the vote. Only the paragraph that says the council liaison position have voting rights on any advisory committee, working group, and subcommittee. All right, all those in favor? Okay, lost.
Because you reconsidered that, now you need a motion to do it again.
Sorry?
You reconsidered that.
Oh, so we reconsidered it, so now we've got to go back to that paragraph again and vote on it the way it was. So, just to clarify, because we're reconsidering that paragraph, now we have to re-vote. Is that correct, Mr. Clerk?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I'm just thinking this through. That motion was reconsidered, so when you reconsider a motion, it's as if that motion never existed to start with. So because that piece never existed to start with, because council decided to reconsider it, now we have to make a motion to either reinstate those voting rights or some other motion on that matter.
Councillor Back?
Thank you, through the mayor. So could I make a motion that one council member be allowed to vote on the committees, and the decision on who the council member would be a vote at council?
Yeah. Yes, go ahead, Jim.
Yeah, so through you, Mr. Mayor, yeah, at this point, any councillor can make any motion they like with regards to that matter.
Councillor Back, could you clarify what you were putting forward there?
Would you like me to repeat that?
Yeah.
That there be one council representative as a voting member of each advisory committee, and the decision on whom that council would be a decision of a vote at council.
Okay, So your meeting decide before, this is decided at the next council meeting, that all the committees are put out there with the list of the members of council, and then we put out a consent list that says, here it is, vote it, and make changes at that time. Okay. All right, Mr. Clerk, did you want to comment on any of this before we open up for comment for council? Concerns, expressing work? I just want to know, and I know we're kind of stuck in a situation where this has to get passed, something has to get passed.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. No, sorry, I don't really have any comment on that. That motion is fine. I don't really have any issue or concern with it. Thank you.
No, maybe comment on the timeline. I guess that's what I wanted to see. If this motion were to pass, how would you foresee this hitting us as the next council meeting, or timelines to be able to communicate to the committees?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you to council. The way I understand the motion is that a report of some description would come back to council listing all of the advisory committees with all of the council representatives on those advisory committees, and it'd be up to council to decide for each committee who the voting member is. That's the way I understand it, and that's the way I see it playing out.
Okay. All right. Questions from council? Councillor Somerville?
Thank you.
Oh, sorry. I need a seconder for that motion. Councillor Watton.
I just have a question on that. If we choose one person, and we're changing council this fall, why are we doing this now? Why don't we just wait until fall time and just get this organized come fall time? I don't mind waiting and seeing if we can just sort of bring this to some kind of a conclusion. If there's two people that's going to be at a council or at a meeting, that's perfectly fine. But why don't we just drop it down to one person being at the meetings? Why do we need two people? Why do we need two council members there?
At the meeting?
At an advisory meeting.
Well, that was the whole point at the beginning, but this council decided not to reduce those, or it was part of the report.
I know, but it doesn't make sense.
So the next term of council, I'm suggesting they deal with that at the beginning and the onset, and then go forward with that one. But because we're at the stage we are now, right now we have a motion that did not pass where everybody, all the committee members, council liaison members have voting rights. So we're dealing with the motion that's before us, where one designated council member determined by this council will be the way going forward.
It's fine. And I'm happy with
council,
that.
Councillor Drew.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We have debated this 4 times, as the clerk has indicated. If we make those changes, it's my understanding that all the terms of reference would have to be changed. Procedural bylaw, would that have to be changed? Okay. What else would have to be changed? Well, we had to do a new bylaw.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you to council. So every terms of reference bylaw that we just did in December for the advisory committees would have to be changed again back to reflect this change. I believe there was 9 bylaws, so they would all have to be updated with the terms of reference would have to be updated as well. Then I'd have to obviously do that report as well, and then have that come to council as well.
Well, I can see that this is going to take probably a couple of months, and at the same time the clerk's department is dealing with election issues. I think I support what Councillor Somerville has said. Why don't we just live with what we've decided to do over four debates, and if it's not working, it can be revisited for the new council. Thank you.
Councillor Watton? Any other comment? Councillor Back?
Thank you, through the mayor. If I understood Councillor Somerville, I think she was referring to why don't we put it back to as it originally was, where all the council members on that committee could vote. Is that what you meant?
No, I did not mean that. What I'm referring to is just, why don't we just leave it status quo right now? Yes, you can have 3 people on, but 1 person vote. And then if when we change our council, in the fall time, then it just totally gets changed to one person,
Okay, so what you're actually saying is that you agree with what I'm proposing?
basically, yes.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, that's not what I understood. I understood that you leave the bylaw as it is right now. Okay. I do not support changing it.
Councillor Tat?
I would just like to make a tiny, friendly amendment to that, and would be that, if the, person that's the voting member is absent, that, one of the other councillors in the committee would be able to vote in their absentee.
Councillor Bragg?
I would accept that. Obviously, it would be like a rotation. If the primary voting council member is not there, then the second person would be Councillor so-and-so, and if that person's also not there, then it reverts to the third.
Any other councillors want to comment on this motion? My own personal opinion is that we've looked at this and we've made our decision, and we've got 9 months or left of committee meetings where I think that we deal with what we've decided on. And personally, I know there's concerns about quorum of committees, but I would like to not add on the extra work to staff, because if we wanted this done, we should have done it when it came before us. So I won't be supporting the motion the way it's put forward, understanding what the intent is, but it's the timing is why I don't support it. So, can we get clarification for the timing for the motion, what's expected of when this is to come back?
Through the mayor, I would like it as soon as possible. If this gets approved, that the council members, the vote would take place on this end of the month council meeting.
It's 2 weeks.
Mr. Clerk, do you want to comment on it, on your time frame? Because I don't know what's all involved. I know it's a lot of documents, and there's already an agenda that's...
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you to council. That would mean I'd have to have the report done by Wednesday. I just don't have time to have the report done by Wednesday, I'm afraid.
Through the mayor, if it were to be for the first meeting in February, would there be a way to pass that evening as well as a special council meeting at the end of that one? It's just my concern is especially the seniors, because I know February and March we're going to have 2 members, and we need 3 for quorum, and we have things to get done, and it's not going to happen. And I'd hate to see that the seniors fair doesn't happen.
When's the cutoff, the deadline for the members to be?
I believe it's the end of this month, but as of our Tuesday meeting last week, there were no actual applicants for it.
Has there been any interest or through the seniors clubs?
No, the president of the seniors, Port Perry Seniors Club, has tried to recruit, and she's having a hard time. And we actually just had a resignation of one of our members, I believe on Friday. So now we're down to 3 members. We used to have 11, and one is away, and she won't be back till April. So we have a problem.
All right. So, and we have a problem with the timing too. So I don't think that there's an expectation this can be done for Wednesday to meet the council meeting. And it's really this is why I'm saying when we had it before us, then we should have been dealing with it. It's not now. So, Councillor Drew.
Question. I'm thinking if this is not passed, if this goes through, and all these reports have to be rewritten and terms of reference changed and so on and so forth, if that's not done, till the end of February, which is probably the earliest it can get done, because that's when council is, how many, realistically, how many advisory committee meetings from any one advisory committee would actually take place before the election? because I don't think there's any scheduled in the fall, is there, or, I'm not sure. So it might be 1 or 2 advisory committees, meetings, for any of the advisory committees, and I'm just wondering, if it's worth all of this, readjusting. Could I have comment from staff on that?
Mr. Clark?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you to council, I don't know all of the advisory committee schedules off the top of my head, but at the most, committees will meet once per month. So if you extrapolate that out, we're looking at, and they break during the summer break, like summer recess, like council does. So we're looking at probably 6 meetings, if they haven't had a meeting this month already, 6 more meetings, possibly 7, but that would be at the very most, and that's for a committee that meets monthly.
Then I'll go back to saying that I think we should just live with the bylaw the way it was before this meeting, and live with it, and if it doesn't work, it can be revisited before or during the election process. Thank you.
Final comments or questions on the motion? We're going to vote. Seeing none. Okay. Oh, to the timing. So, Councillor Back.
So I'll ask the clerk, would the GPA of February be okay, or what's best for you?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you to council. My concern is really not the report, to be quite honest with you. For the report, to bring this report back that you're asking for, I could absolutely have it done by February 5. My concern is updating all of the terms of reference again. The update that we just did in December, I had 3 of my staff members, plus myself, 4 members, working on those bylaws. So all I'm suggesting is it's not a small task. So the report absolutely could get done by February 5th. But I'm not sure if I could get all of the bylaws done by the February 12th, which is the council meeting in February.
Okay, so my question to you is, if that came to the GPNA, when would it be, when would councillors, if it were to pass, and when would councillors then be able to vote? Would they be able to vote in February meetings or in March?
So as it stands right now, the bylaws say that you don't have voting rights. So it wouldn't be until those bylaws are changed could you then have voting rights.
Okay, so is it possible for the GPNA just to have the report of council choosing who, if this passes, and for the council meeting of February to have the bylaws done so that March they can actually vote?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you to council. That's my concern, is that I'm not sure if I'll be able to get it done by February 12th. The report, yes, but updating all of those bylaws again by February 12th is keeping in mind that when I say February 12th council meeting, it's a week before that I have to have everything uploaded to the agenda. So I'm looking, first week of February to have all the bylaws done. Going through this process already, like I had those 4 staff in my department working on all of these bylaws to get them done by the December meeting so that we could meet the January 1st deadline. Knowing all that work that went into that, I just don't think I can get it done by the February 12th council meeting. The report, like I said, the report, yes. The bylaws to make those changes, no. I'm sorry, I don't know.
Okay. So, clear on timing. I don't know if that answers the timing for the motion. It's really not specified, but okay, so as soon as possible, is that satisfactory for the motion?
As long as you understand, as soon as
Yeah.
possible is different for you than me.
Yeah. So, can you reread the motion, please?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, this is what I have. That there be 1 council representative as a voting member and an alternative voting member be appointed on each advisory committee, and that the decision on who that member is be brought forward to council for approval as soon as possible.
Any questions, Councillor Kent?
Thank you, Mayor. I'm just wondering why we couldn't make a motion after today, and all the councilors got together and decided on these committees who would be the voting person on each committee, and made a motion to that effect right this afternoon, and the other, or tonight and the other, why it couldn't just be done right then. If we got together and agreed on all of them, they could all be changed by motion, and it would be solved.
Mr. Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you to council. It's not the motion I'm concerned about, it's the updating of the bylaws. All of the bylaws right now say that council don't have voting rights, and you don't count towards quorum. That's what the bylaws council passed in December. So to change that, they all need to be updated. So they would have to be brought back to council to be changed. So yes, the motion could be done, but the bylaws wouldn't be updated today. And that's the concern.
Okay. Any other questions, final Councilor Watton?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Does the, how is the quorum defined in the bylaws? Is it those in attendance or a certain percentage of those that are of the committee?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you to council. Quorum is defined by the majority of voting members. So right now, that doesn't include council representatives on the committee because they're not voting members. And that actually was the council resolution, was that there'd be no voting rights and that representatives not count towards quorum. That was the resolution passed by council. So that's the way it reads right now.
So it's not just those that are in attendance, though, then, which would have simplified it all, because then if there was 2 people or 3 people, whether council was there or not, those in attendance.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you to council. Yeah, it's the majority of voting members, so it depends on the number of members appointed to the committee as well, so that changes.
So just to clarify that, because if there were, given the example, 1 councillor and 5 citizens, and 4 citizens show up, 4 citizens show up, or 3 citizens show up, it doesn't change the majority that's required to pass that? I thought it was still the majority of voting members present, as long as the quorum number was met.
So if there's 5 citizen members appointed to the committee, then you would need 3 citizen members to attend that meeting to meet quorum, regardless of the number of council members, and that's how it's written right now.
Okay. Councilor Drew?
Just to clarify, I think I understand this, but if there, as Councilor Back has said, 11 members, originally there were 11 members. Now there's been resignations and so on and so forth. So they're down to say, I don't know, what are they down to, 5? They're down to 3, so a quorum would be 2, is that correct? If there's only 3 members of the committee still listed as members.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you to council. Yeah, that's correct. So there is 3 appointed committee members. It's the majority of that. To a minimum, another thing we added to the bylaw, to a minimum of 3 members, I believe. So no, your example, no, it wouldn't be.
So if there's 5 members left,
yes, I believe there's a minimum of 3. There's also a minimum number of voting members there must be in any situation. I believe it was 3 was the minimum we put in.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions on this? Could you read the motion, Mr. Clerk?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. That there be 1 council representative as a voting member and an alternate voting member be appointed on each advisory committee, and that the decision of who that member is be brought forward to council for approval as soon as possible.
And I just wanted to state again that I don't support it because of the timing and because of how many times it's been before this council. So all those in favor? Lost. Anybody want to move the previous one, moved by Councillor Watton, seconded by Councillor Drew, the original motion that we'd already passed in there, that paragraph? Any questions on that? All those in favor? No? Okay. I'm taking a recess. I'll be back in 1 hour. Okay, we'll reconvene the meeting. So item 11.2, notice of motion reconsidered the matter. Motion that was put forward was lost. Second motion put forward was lost. So, having said that, we now move on to the next item on the agenda, which is item 12 for new business. Any new business? Okay. No closed session. I need a mover and a seconder for a motion to adjourn. Councillor Watton, seconded by Councillor Drew. Any questions on the procedure? You can visit the clerk after the meeting. All those in favor? Carried. We'll see everybody at the 6:30 council meeting. 6:30 PCA meeting. Thanks. Hereby call this Planning and Community Affairs Committee meeting to order, held Monday, January 15th, 2018 at 6:30 p.m. I'd like to ask everyone to please rise for a moment of silence. Please be seated. Disclosure of pecuniary interest and nature thereof. Seeing none. Announcements from council and staff. Councillor Watton.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd just like to remind everyone that the Chamber of Commerce is having their open house or their grand opening at their new location this Thursday from 3 till 6. If people are available to attend, they would greatly appreciate it. On Water Street, right beside Hair Solutions.
Any other announcements from council or staff? Okay, seeing none, move on to adoption of the minutes. We have it moved by Councillor Kett, seconded by Councillor Drew. Any errors, omissions, questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? Carried. Next item is forming our public meeting. Section 9.1 on the agenda. So this portion of the meeting has been set aside for one statutory public information meeting being held under Section 34 of the Planning Act for zoning bylaw amendment application Z10-2018 submitted by Clark Consulting Services on behalf of Eric and Rachel Vannetten for property located at 3761 McKee Road. It is important that the public express their views either in person or in writing prior to decisions being made by this council. If you wish to file an appeal of council's decision to the Ontario Municipal Board on either of these files, you must first speak to the matter at this public meeting or provide a written submission before a zoning bylaw amendment is passed. If you do not, you will not be added as a party to a hearing by the OMB unless the board determines there are reasonable grounds to do so. Public notice was served by the Township of Squealog in accordance with the requirements of the Planning Act. Mr. Bertoli, please proceed with your presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As you discussed, we are here to discuss the zoning bylaw amendment application, Z10-2017. This is a statutory public information meeting, portion of the planning process. This is a portion where the public is provided the opportunity to comment on the proposal. As you're aware, no decisions are made at this time, but the feedback received will inform staff recommendation moving forward. The required public notice was provided to all property owners within 400 feet of the subject property and posted on the township's website. A sign has also been placed on the property to notify the public of the application. Let's pull up this guy for you. So, a report was provided to council last week for your review, but I will just touch on a few of the main points. So the applicant owns the active poultry farm on a portion of subject lands of 3851 McKee Road. That is the blue portion. They have since purchased the neighboring property of 3761 McKee Road. That would be the red segment. As for the nature of their business, the applicants do not require the existing farmhouse, frame garage, or shed found on the red portion of this property, and have since pursued a severance in this regard. An application for consent, Land Division Application 191-2017, to sever the surplus farm dwelling was granted conditional approval by the region, provided both parcels conform to the provisions of zoning bylaw 1414. So, that is essentially why we're here now. The applicant is now attempting to fulfill these conditions. In order to do so, they are required to rezone 3761 McKee Road to a rural residential exception zone. This would recognize the increase to allowable maximum gross floor area for an accessory structure from 120 square meters to 127.1 square meters. This 127.1 square meters is the size of the existing frame garage that will now be located on this property. They would also be required to rezone the 3851 McKee Road property to an agricultural exception, agricultural holding exception, and environmental protection exception zones, which would prohibit both future residential uses and further severances. This is a requirement of farm consolidations and severances. So I guess just to break things down, the applicant purchased the neighboring farm to supplement and improve their current agricultural buildings. This neighboring parcel contained an existing residence, middle-class shed, and frame garage, all of which were not required by the applicant, as they would not benefit their agricultural business, and have applied for severance in this regard. The rezoning presented before you is to fulfill the conditions of the severance, which, as I mentioned, has been granted conditional approval by the region. The application was circulated to external agencies and internal departments, and no objections or concerns were noted. Any comments received tonight or subsequently written will be considered by staff for a future recommendation. It's staff opinion that the proposal conforms and complies with all provincial planning policies, as well as the regional and township official plans. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and that concludes my presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions you or council may have.
Thank you very much for your presentation. Questions from council this time? Councillor Kett, please.
Thank you, Robert. Well done, as usual. Just wanted to check, this follows all the procedures that we've had for all the other farms?
Well, I can't really speak for the other farm consolidations, but yes, it does.
Follows it?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Question, Councillor Watton, did you have anything?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is just more out of curiosity. When you say all the neighbors have been notified within 400 feet of the property, would there be any? Other than the one house across the road?
We have a mailing list that I can check. Offhand, I'm not sure.
I'm just looking at the size of the properties. I would think that 400 feet there wouldn't be too many neighbors that would be notified then.
Yeah, and that 400 feet comes from the Planning Act.
It does, and that was my next question, whether it should be extended beyond 400 feet when you're dealing with farm properties.
That 400 feet is from the property line, though, around, so it would be all the adjacent properties, right? Okay. Any other questions from council? All right. So, Mr. Hugh Stewart from Clark Consulting Services is here today. Do you have anything to add on behalf of your client?
I think that Mr. Sully did a great job there, but if there are any questions,
okay. All right. Any questions from council? Mr. Stewart? Seeing none? No? Great, thank you. Now, back to any members of the public that I have missed that are hiding back there. Would like to speak to the application. Please proceed to the microphone. State your name and municipal address for the record. And seeing nobody in the audience, then I'll ask for one final time if there are any final questions from council on the matter. All right, to the audience, thank you for attending and providing your input to the statutory public information meeting. This concludes this statutory public information meeting, which now brings us to the next item on the agenda, which is the report 11.1, which is dealing with this zoning bylaw amendment, the recommendations that staff put forward, that the report to have 2018-01 zoning bylaw amendment, application Z10 2017 Vanetton 3761 McKee Road, information report be received, and that the staff report back to council with recommendation on this application at the March 19, 2018 Planning and Community Affairs meeting. Mr. Vitoli, just a question here. The motion says 2017 in it, but the public meeting says 2018 in it. I just want to know which is the correct.
So it would have been a 2017 application.
All right, because it was applied for in 2017?
And it was
correct?
the 10th application we received.
All right, so I have moved by Councillor Kett. Are there, I need a seconder for that. Second by Councillor Watton. Any questions on that motion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Carried. Next item on the agenda is 11.2, which is the zoning bylaw amendment application. Moved by Councillor Kett. I need a seconder for that. Moved by Councillor second by Councillor Somerville. The recommended motion from staff. Any questions on this? Seeing none, all those in favor? Carried. 11.3, which is the zoning bylaw amendment application, moved by Councillor Kett, second by Councillor Drew. The recommended motion here. Are there any questions on that? Councillor Watton. Councillor, any other councillors wishing to speak to it or question it? All right, seeing none, all those in favor? Carried. This brings us to the end of this session. We are having a council meeting right after this, so need a motion to a mover to adjourn this meeting. Moved by Councillor Watton, seconded by Councillor Somerville. All those in favor? Carried. Okay. Now we're going into the specially called council meeting. So call this special council meeting Monday, January 15, 2018 to order. And I just want to make sure we're okay with the time. It was advertised appropriately given the notice, and to immediately follow this open session, or the previous open session of the Planning and Community Affairs meeting. So hereby call this to order. Any disclosure, pecuniary interest, nature thereof. Seeing none, we'll move on to the item 7, which we have moved by Councillor Kett. We need a seconder for it. Councillor Drew. Recommended bylaw read a first, second, and third time, and finally passed the 15th day of January 2018. And the mayor and clerk hereby directed to sign, say, and fix the corporate seal there too. Any questions on that motion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Carried. Next item, we have Councillor Kett has moved the recommended motion. We need a seconder for that motion. Councillor Watton. Any questions on that motion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Carried. We have moved the confirming bylaws, the next item, section 8, moved by Councillor Kett, seconded by Councillor Drew. Recommend confirming bylaw that the proceedings of the regular council meeting held Monday, January 15, 2018, read first, second, and third time, finally passes 15th day of January 2018, and the mayor clerk hereby directed to sign, same, and fix the corporate seal thereto. Any questions on that motion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Carried. I need two movers, one to move and second the adjournment. Moved by Councillor Watton, seconded by Councillor Somerville. All those in favor? Carried. Most.
Awesome.
Have a good night, everybody.
Thank you, Tom.